My name is Pippa Kelmenson, and my thesis, Bone Conductive Instrument, or BCI for short, is an intuitive sound generating and listening device that teaches us how to listen through our bones. To start off with, a bit about me. My background and undergraduate degree is in electronic and experimental music. I'm always looking for ways to add a tactile dimension to sound for accessible experiences, and my work looks to create an inclusive dialogue between sound, interactive art, and the body. And so as a musical kid with hearing impairments, I struggled to hear the notes that I was reading and would instead focus on the physicality of actually playing the instruments, most of which were definitely not designed for my size or shape. After learning 6 of them over the years, I found a sense of responsibility to improve the accessibility of the music learning world to help those around me who also shared similar experiences. But in order to do that, I would need to question the experience of how we hear, learn, and play music. So with an intention to develop an accessible technology for sound at ITP, I began my research. So this past year, I met with experts in disability studies, musical instrument design, and audiology, and developed relationships with other members of the hard of hearing community, discussing individual experiences and preferences with regard to music learning, composition, and performance. This outreach helped me provide insight around the topic of sensory augmentation to ask the question, how do the acoustics of instruments physically impact the body? Listening to music is not only an activity of the ear, but it also includes the rest of our bodies. Since vibrations are felt throughout the body, its internal structures can act as resonating chambers according to various frequencies. For example, the skull itself can vibrate in 2 modes. 1, inertial, which means that it's vibrating as a single unit against an acting force, and 2, compressional, which means that it's vibrating as a system of divided parts in many directions. So although theoretically any place on the body may serve as a point of entry for sound, the reception of vibrations from places other than the head makes auditory sensation pretty unlikely due to sound loss during transmission. For a musician, there's also a significant tactile dimension present in the vibration of the instrument against the body while playing. So what is bone conduction? Let me explain a little bit how the auditory processing system works. Acoustic information arrives at the ears and is converted into mechanical stimulations that vibrate the cochlea, where they're converted into neural impulses in the inner ear. These impulses travel along the auditory nerve to the brain, where they are translated and perceived by the auditory cortex as sound. As such, there are 2 transmission pathways by which physical sound waves can be transformed into mechanical vibrations: air conduction and bone conduction. Air conduction is the process by which an acoustic signal travels through the structure of the outer and middle ear and arrives at your cochlea. But bone conduction is the process by which an acoustic signal vibrates the bones of the skull to stimulate the cochlea instead. Bone conduction is essentially how you hear your own voice and why your voice might sound different to you when it's recorded. Because when you speak aloud, you hear yourself directly routed through your bones. But in a recording, the voice you hear is actually shaped by the resonance of your outer ear. So reflecting on this quote from the Oxford Handbook of Music and the Body, which, yes, it is actually a thing, the consciousness of the way our body moves when producing music allows listening to and with the body. I started my 2-year-long journey towards developing a multimodal interactive system that would enable access to musical sounds for users across demographics and hearing abilities. My goal was to design a prototype that could be tested with different types of input systems on different body locations with different methods of distributing sound signals. And so I came up with BCI. BCI calls for an inclusive and innovative way for users across the hearing spectrum to interact with sound. Those with varied degrees of hearing loss may hear, play, and learn a new and never before seen instrument. It sits at the intersection of artists, technologists, music educators, and the hard of hearing community, and allows the listener a private experience of the noises they generate throughout their body. Not only does BCI provide insight into how the body processes sound information, but it also facilitates the practice and performance of an instrument while alone. As a digital musical instrument, any computer music system with Bluetooth can be used as a sound source, but only the wearer can hear the sounds that they generate. The intended sounds are the vibrations of different resonant frequencies and phases of the body, shown as musical notes in the sketch above, changing pitch with the direction of the user's gesture. While not necessarily musical, BCI is designed to allow a performer to control musical output through corporeal activity, and as such, the focus of the instrument as an artwork lies in the process of interaction itself, not in the musical outcome. So keep in mind that the sound I'll be playing in this video will be heard through air conduction via your speakers, so it's not a perfect representation of how the BCI sounds through bone conduction. To construct such an instrument, I designed an organic shape outfitted with the functionality of a familiar electronic instrument. Located in recesses formed in the instrument, the bone and air conduction transducers are paired with haptic feedback to provide a fully immersive auditory experience with vibrations. I first used multiple 3D modeling softwares to fit the instrument to a genderless human body, and then I researched materials used in instrument design and gathered and tested a variety of different transducers on lots of locations on the body. I fabricated the enclosure's parts with a laser cutter, and after individually replicating each of its 48 interior angles, I adhered all 16 faces and installed the embedded hardware with functionalities for changing pitch, volume, harmonics, and phase. But it took me 2 years and 11 versions to get it right. Thinking about the BCI's acoustic and body physiology as an extended human-machine system, I reviewed different communication protocols so that the BCI could wirelessly send sound signals to the user's jaw. This works with the following process. Max MSP generates a waveform, a computer sends the sound signal to the amplifier through Bluetooth. The amplifier supplies the processed sound as an electromechanical signal to drive the transducers. The user controls the BCI's analog input settings by changing the resistance reading of the sensors and thus the filters applied to the sound. The sensor data is received by an Arduino and sent back to Max MSP wirelessly via OSC, thereby modulating the waveforms on the computer by equalizing, compressing, and filtering the sound components. And that's the BCI. This spring, I received a grant from the Tisch Creative Research Fund, which will allow me to take further steps on improving BCI for my next 25 iterations. In the next few months, I will be developing a music visualization system that helps users identify sound through vibration and visual cues. I will be refining the sound structure to include different waveforms and samples. I will be getting in touch with interested parties who will be willing to test my BCI and provide user feedback. If you're one of those people, let me know. And finally, I will be working on improving the interface design to include more possibilities of sonic performance. I look forward to continuing this project and to further bringing sensibility to methods of hearing outside of traditional means. Because after all, sound can be accessible to anything with a skeleton. Although there are far too many people for me to thank for their input and help in this project, some people that I could not exclude are Luisa, Billy, Guillermo, Luke, and Tom, the NYU Tisch Creative Research, Christopher Garcia Val, who took the pictures, my subject matter experts, my friends from ITP and around the world, Jean, and my mom. Thank you. Thank you.